Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning, sisters and brothers. The topic which I am going to present in front of you is the relevance of Badeeu'zzaman Sajid Nursi's perspective on economic justice in the post-liberalization era. I have divided my paper into three parts. That the one as introduction, I will review what post-liberalization or the liberalization of economics have brought in, what changes it has brought in the economy, especially in the case of poor people or the marginalized section of the society, and how Islam deals with the problem of poverty, how Islam tries to solve the problem of poverty, and how the modern Turkey reformer Badeeu'zzaman Sajid Nursi analyzes the Islamic thought on this issue. Going to the liberalization. Liberalization has a lot of benefits it has brought in the society. It has brought in innovation and a lot of choices for the people. In the markets, we are getting whatever we need wherever the things are being produced. The things produced all over the world is available in the modern markets. At the same time, looking to the liberalization with a poor people's perspective, what has done this liberalization with the poor people? Whether the liberalization of economy has brought in any development or upward mobility in the economic status of the poor, or are they remaining still as poor? Identifying these things, we can understand that by 1990s, by the starting of 1990s or the end of 1980s, almost all the world countries switched over into the market-based economy and opened up their economy. What change has happened in these last 23 years in the status of the poor, especially in the developing countries and the underdeveloped countries? We can have a look to the sub-Saharan Africa. In 1990s, what was the status of poverty there? There were around 65% of the poor people. Coming to the South Asia, the percentage of poor people was 55%, and in 2012, by the end of 2012, the status of the poor people in sub-Saharan Africa, still there are 50% of the poor. In percentage terms, it has reduced by 15, but if we are taking the absolute numerical terms, poverty has increased by 98 million. In the case of South Asia also, the poverty has been reduced from 50 to 35, but still more than 538 million people are living below $1.25 per day, which is equal to less than 75 Indian rupees. Then, what was the reason behind this? The modern capitalist economic order. What modern capitalist economic order has done with the poor people? It has given more individual freedom and individualization of economy. It has given freedom to the person who is a house to increase his money as much as possible while neglecting the poor people who are fighting for their daily survival. The modern liberal economic policy sees the capitalism idealizes individual and regards personal freedom as a sacred precious gift. Trust him with the task of maximization of production, maximization of individual production, and forbids state interference in the entrepreneur's freedom. While the socialism, another extreme end, which gives the rigid collectivism, curbing the individual freedom to earn through all the legal means. Then, how Islam approaches this issue? We have two extreme ends. One extreme end of rigid flexible individualism of the capitalism, and another end of extreme collectivism of the socialism. And here, Islam takes a middle path between these two extreme ends. And in Islam, while capitalism promotes growth over the equity and Socialism promotes equity over the growth. Islam promotes equity and growth simultaneously. As far as the money in the pocket of a rich man increases, the share of the poor people also increases with the Islamic philosophy of zakat. At the same time, Islam give a relief for the poor people from the exploitation of by the poor through interest. Islam proscribes interest and commands, strictly introduces the system of zakat, which is the right of the poor in the wealth of the rich. Now, coming to the perspective of Badeeu'zzaman Sajid Nursi, how the modern Turkish reformer Badeeu'zzaman Sajid Nursi, may mercy of Almighty be upon him, analyzes the issue of poverty. While we are talking, the states, modern states are talking about the welfare system and welfare-based economy. Badeeu'zzaman Sajid Nursi goes into the root cause of the poverty that he sees in the wastefulness by the rich class and the greed of the rich class at the cost of the poor people. We can see that by explaining the Quranic words, Kulu washrabu wala tusrifu inna Allah la yuhibbul musrifin, eat and drink but waste not by excess. So Badeeu'zzaman Sajid Nursi comes to the point that Badeeu'zzaman Sajid Nursi thinks that the reform of an individual is more easy and more viable than changing a society through a revolution. By changing each individual, by reforming each individual, we can change a society very easily. But by doing revolution, sometimes it may be failure. Hence, he thinks that the economic reforms should come from each and every individual. That is why he encourages individual to be frugal, that means not to waste the money which he has. Then he thinks that wasting has a lot of, he discourages wasting, finding that how philosophically or spiritually wasting is a bad thing. He says that it is contrary to thanks to the bounty of Almighty. If you are wasting what Almighty has given as a bounty on you, you are not thanking Him, instead of you are doing something contrary. And in another way, he analyzes that frugality is in conformity with the divine wisdom, and it was the habit, it was the tradition of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Next, coming to the frugality, he says that thinking in a material way, frugality makes you more rich. And to explain these things, he narrates an incident from his life. Once he was exiled with some tribal leaders to a place called Badeeu'zzaman. Then the tribal leaders, who were very much rich, offered him their zakat, telling that it is not good that you are being humiliated with a lack of money. He obviously denied to take zakat from them, telling that I am frugal and economic, I can survive with less amount of money. Then he tells that after 2 years, these tribal people, leaders who were very rich, became poor and even started begging for their life because they were wasting money, and I was still self-sufficient to survive because he was frugal. Then he makes the root cause of poverty is that the people who are having more money are wasting more money, which is more than their essential needy goods. Next, he tells that the wastefulness inspires a person to earn money, even it is through illegal way like smuggling, cheating and bribing, and it becomes at the cost of his personal honor and self-respect, even at the cost of his religion in which he believes. Next, he spiritually motivates people to be frugal and economical in life, telling that it was one of the Prophet's elevated qualities to be frugal, and it is in conformity with the divine wisdom. And going a little bit ahead, he speaks what are the consequences of wasting money or the greed. Wasting money is a result of the greed, and greed makes man dissatisfied throughout the life. He will never be happy in the life. A person who is greed will be dissatisfied, and he will never thank what he has received as a gift of Almighty or from anybody. He will he will ever think that he deserves more. And another tragedy of the greed is that sometimes he may do something which destroys his akhirah. He may not, the person who is more greed may not provide the zakat, which is the right of the poor people in the wealth of him. And another issue, sometimes he may depend on taking interest to increase his money in the illegal way and satisfy his greed. Another way, Badeeu'zzaman Sajid Nursi explains how greed or how the wastefulness of the money has caused the poverty. He tells that in the nomadic era, people were needing 4 things to serve as an essential commodity for their survival, and 8 people out of 10 were getting these things. But today, people are in need of at least 20 things for their happy daily survival, and 2 out of 20 are getting these things. In nomadic era, people were frugal, and now as we have, the society has become wasting money. A large section of the society is suffering the problems of the wasteful life or luxury life of 2 people out of 20. Analyzing these things, what Badeeu'zzaman Sajid Nursi has taught us in the contemporary era, we can understand that the people are wasting, the rich people are wasting a lot of money. Even if, for instance, if we are taking the case of India, while 37% of our population are earning less than 1.25 rupees, $25 per day. Taking the most 10 rich people in India, they are keeping in their treasury an amount which is more than 6,000 billion Indian rupees, while according to the government reports, every week 1 person is dying out of poverty in the city of Delhi every week.
Can you conclude?
Okay, I have almost coming to the conclusion. I think that Badeeu'zzaman Sajid Nursi attributes what Islam has prescribed and what Islam has prescribed, like zakat and usury. These things happens. The abnormalities in these things happens, or the illegal earning or abandonment of zakat, which is the right of poor, happens only because of the wasteful luxury life of a minority at the cost of the life of a majority. Then these thoughts of Badeeu'zzaman Sajid Nursi, if everybody is ready to practice in his life, we can change the whole society. Thank you.
Thank you.